You're watching World Insight with me, Tian Wei. Still to come on our program. The South Korean cryptocurrency exchange, Youbit, was hacked and lost 17% of its value. Can Bitcoin's rapid rise outweigh its inherent risks? You're watching World Insight with me, Tian Wei, coming to you Monday to Friday on CGTN. Bitcoin futures began trading in the U.S. this month. Meanwhile, data shows that Japan, South Korea, and Vietnam accounted for 80% of the global Bitcoin trading at the end of November. But this Tuesday, a South Korean cryptocurrency exchange said it was shutting down and filing for bankruptcy after it was hacked for the second time this year. These cases highlight security concerns over booming virtual currencies. Before we go to our panel about the future of Bitcoin and some of the others, let's take a look at this background story.
Paying for curry with virtual currency. This restaurant in Seoul began accepting Bitcoin as payment several years ago. But with Bitcoin prices skyrocketing recently, diners are choosing to pay using traditional cash or credit card.
Bitcoin prices have risen so much that people see it more as a speculative or investment tool. Customers that used to use Bitcoin in everyday life aren't coming anymore.
The Bitcoin bonanza has gripped South Korea. Everyone from housewives to college students and office workers are rushing to virtual currency exchanges in hopes of a quick profit. But with big potential gains comes the possibility of big losses. That's prompted the government to monitor the market more closely. Greg Yu is the developer of a Bitcoin payment service provider. He believes some oversight could provide guidance to the market.
I don't think it is right to highlight just the negative points of virtual currencies, but with the victims arising from good faith transactions, there are certain aspects that the government should legally manage.
Asian countries have the IT infrastructure and knowledge. That's why you see a high level of understanding about virtual currencies based on blockchain technology in Asian markets.
There's fierce debate over whether the future of Bitcoin is a dangerous speculative bubble. But for South Korean investors, the hope is that bubble never bursts.
For more on cryptocurrency latest tests, we turn to our panel in Beijing. We have Andy Mok, who is the founder of Red Pagoda Resources, provides professional services for startups in China. And let's go to also in Beijing, Huang, who is the founding partner of Jadestone Venture and also former managing director of Intel China. Welcome. Meanwhile, joining us in Belfast, we have Patrick McCorry, research associate at the Department of Computer Science with UCL, UK's first PhD graduate in cryptocurrencies. Welcome to all of you, gentlemen. This is an exciting topic, I would say. A lot of latest news happening all at the same time. What about that, Mr. McCorry, make of the South Korean closing down of the Bitcoin currency exchange?
What was it, sorry?
What do you make of it?
Shutting down the exchange.
Yes.
But in terms of the hack, so they lost about 17% of their assets. So the problem is that they're probably no longer solvent. So in that case, they're probably better off shutting down and trying to return as much money as they can to their customers. This sort of cyber comprehensive insurance, where they're actually covered for $3 billion of the loss. So hopefully most people will get their money back. But I actually thought their approach was very different to what happened previously. So last summer there was another exchange called Bitfinex, and they lost a similar amount of coins. But what they did instead was they gave everybody like a 10% haircut or 20% haircut. I forget the exact figure. So in a sense that the money that was lost in the exchange was given to customers as an IOU. And then as Bitfinex made more money, their customers also made their money.
Okay.
So there are two different approaches. Do you shut down or do you give IOUs?
Right, that is for the exchange. But what about for the Bitcoin itself? Mr. Huang, here in Beijing, we did notice Mr. McCorry suggested hopefully, but hopefully you wouldn't carry us very far, right? So, Mr. Huang, is there a serious systematic problem with Bitcoin and the businesses, including the exchanges, related to it?
I think there's two incidents, and like a bankruptcy and exchange house and being hacked, and indicated the risk. And if you put, as a Bitcoin user, if you put all your trust into the trading house, and then that seems to be very vulnerable. I think every user, they should actually put, every user has to have a public key and a private key. They should store these two keys by themselves in a secured way. But it also says that if the user is not computer savvy, and they may have to rely on the trading house and to store those keys for them. So this has become a risky approach.
Yes, Mr. Mark, this is supposed to be Bitcoin. Help people to trade securely with anonymous identity, and also probably be able to do it in large scale. But obviously, these previous two incidents that we mentioned did not serve the purpose, and only going the other way around. So, Mr. Ma, do you see much future and hope of Bitcoin?
I'm actually pretty negative about Bitcoin, and the reason is that I see it really as an ingenious con game like three-card Monte. So it's like the three-card Monte of the fintech world, in that as a payment system, it's not clear that it's really better than Alipay or WeChat Wallet. As fiat currency or fiat money, which really is just an IOU that governments issue. And the reason that this works for the U.S. dollar is that the U.S. dollar is backed by the full faith and credit of the United States government, whereas Bitcoin is really an IOU that's not backed really by anybody.
That's true.
So I think it's a very clever marketing scheme, but people have made a lot of money at it so far.
Only a marketing scheme, not the alternative. Mr. McCorry, your whole academic future builds on this. I'm sure you have very different views.
No, of course, yes. I have the opposite opinion. It really depends what type of utility you want from Bitcoin. And so he is correct in one sense, in the sense that the value of Bitcoin is based on perception, and it's not backed by any feasible good or financial institution. But that's like this whole basis of Bitcoin itself, because Bitcoin came around back in 2009 by Satoshi Nakamoto, because the idea is that we should not have to trust the banks with our money. So if you consider that your utility and you want to have full autonomy over your coins, then Bitcoin is very useful. And if you want to do trade with other countries, in the sense that you don't want to have to trust any intermediary, then Bitcoin or stuff like Ethereum, smart contracts, is super useful there as well.
Got it. But here's the thing, Mr. Huang. Is this just the process of perfecting the system so that the Bitcoin exchanges and businesses related to it will be more secure and eventually take the place of the currency that we're seeing, whether it's your dollar or some of the others? Or this is really almost the end of it? You know, technology happens fast. So Bitcoin, if it doesn't work, let's move to something else. Which is this that we are talking about here, Mr. Huang? It's time to show your color.
I have a different view with Andy, obviously. I think that Bitcoin is one of these crypto and currencies, and those cryptocurrencies are designed for decentralized people's trust to central government or central bank. I do believe they have a value in there. And going back to Bitcoin itself, I think Bitcoin and they have a limited and numbers. For example, only 21 million coins and in there. So just considering it as a collection, it has a value, right? So I wouldn't agree this is like a scam or no value. And of course, and then because so many people right now betting on that, it's become a lot more speculative and then gambling and the vehicle than alternative.
But maybe that is exactly demonstrating that Bitcoin is not the way to go if it becomes a tool for gambling, or it becomes a tool for wealth to escape from one entity, one sovereign country to another.
I think I wouldn't go that far to say Bitcoin will replace.
How far would you like to go?
I think at least it's an alternative and a currency, and I can see they have a value. If not Bitcoin, it must be another one, like a new generation of this crypto and currencies will provide the role as alternative to the traditional currency. I do see this as a decentralized and design has a value.
Has its value.
And also has its place.
Has its value, has its place, not only for the financial sector, but also for probably even more than that, Mr. Huang. Because, Mr. Mark, let me go to you about that. Right now, the financial market around the world is dominated by a few currencies, mainly the US dollar, of course the European euro as well. But the question is, how can we democratize the currency future, in a way?
Well,
will dollar still be dominant? Or can everybody have Bitcoin or some of the other fintech possibilities so that everybody have a say and no one could dominate the market through the currency it controls? Mr. Ma.
Well,
I know you're coming originally from the United States, but go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I am... the way I would see it, though, is that even though I am from the U.S., I'm not necessarily in favor of the dollar hegemony. But I think that this idea of a democratized currency is not necessarily a good idea. Just like we can see currency as like a utility, a public utility. And do we want anyone running our nuclear power plants? The reason I think we do have decentralized currencies is that an important role of a currency is that it is also used for monetary policy to manage a country's economy. And by saying that it's decentralized and making that a feature, it's actually a bug, I think, and that to me is the biggest drawback.
I see Mr. Huang is waving his head, but Mr. McCorry is probably doing it even more. So, Mr. McCorry, you want to come in?
Yeah, of course, yeah. So I would have the opposite opinion in a sense. Like if you consider these, well, one thing I would say is they're not really decentralized. A lot of these currencies have two features. One, the blockchain is maintained by a distributed group of miners, and in reality there's only about 10 people who control that, and that's something we really need to fix. Two, the benefit of these type of blockchain systems is that everything's publicly verifiable. So one issue with the banking system and most finance software out there is that I have to trust it blindly. I can't see what's going on. Where with these blockchain systems, I can publicly verify myself that everything is correct. And that's really important if you want to build up trust in relationships with other people.
But you know,
so for example,
McCorry,
if the Bank of America wanted to trade with, oh sorry.
Yeah, but Mr. McCorry, you know, the counter-argument immediately for that is when you can verify, a lot of the others could use the same tool to verify as well. Or probably not verify, but doing something else. So democracy does bring a lot of danger in this regard, particularly in the financial sector. Mr. McCorry, very briefly from you, react.
Well, in terms of the democracy and how democracy would maintain it, a lot of people tend to compare Bitcoin and Ethereum, so the governance issue. How do we govern these currencies? They tend to compare them to businesses and democracy, and I don't think that's a very good analogy to describe how these systems work. Because the idea with a democracy is that you're voting for people and you're delegating your vote out for people to make decisions on your behalf. And that's not how really these currencies work.
I see.
The idea is that if you want to maintain and control these systems, you have to financially invest into these systems and outcompete other people. And that's also why it's not a business, because in a business, you don't really, the more money I put in, the more money I should hopefully make. But that's not really the case for these currencies either. So a better way to think of the governance issue is that it's an idealized free market. We're actually witnessing the very first free market in the world.
We too much idealized it.
Sorry.
Probably there's something just in between. It's not something that we aspire to in a huge way. It's not something that we dismiss easily. Mr. Huang?
I think there's a cryptocurrency. Decentralized is one feature. More importantly, it's transparent. As Mr. McCorry pointed out, and everybody knows and how many get generated, who got what, and instead of, like, for example, we don't know which government print how much money. Those are very important things and for every citizen to know.
And those are the only reason you think it should exist?
I wouldn't say the only reason. That's a very important reason.
But you know, gentlemen, very briefly from every one of you, things are happening very fast, fintech particularly. You see different versions in different country works. In China, you have got the mobile pay. It just worked perfectly in this country, huge population. But you also got Bitcoin popular in some of the other countries. China not yet embracing it because of the so-called risks involved. So are we going to see a global effort to embrace certain possibilities? Are we going to be more diversified and yet drifting apart in our choices of our financial future? Very briefly, from every one of you, Mr. Huang, go first.
I think if every country has its own cryptocurrency, it's going to fail. And there's at least one of the issues is what's the trading the rate between one currency
That's
versus
right.
another.
We go to the same currency thing,
so
right?
This cannot work, and so it has to be one accepted by, if not all of them, most of them. Right now, the Bitcoin is the one and accepted by most of them.
I see. Mr. Mok, very briefly.
Well, I'm very optimistic about innovation in the fintech sector.
I see you measure your words.
I am pessimistic about the future of cryptocurrencies. I'm not sure that I see these benefits of transparency and trust as being very relevant.
Got it. And Mr. McCorry, final words coming from the first PhD on cryptocurrencies. Very briefly, sir.
My final words. So, what did I say? So when I started my PhD back in 2013, it was considered probably one of the riskiest PhDs around because if Bitcoin died, so would my PhD. But thankfully, it never died. And, and because of that, that's why I'm honored to be the first person to do it.
There we go. Patrick McCorry, Andy Mok, Jay Huang. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for being with us. And have a great weekend, certainly a great holiday season. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for being with us. That is all the time we have for today. If you'd like to see more, find us World Insight CGTN in your search engine or check out our YouTube channel. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Sina Weibo. From me, Tian Wei, and everyone on the World Insight team, thanks for watching. Tune in again next time for insights across China and around the world. Good night.